What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Friday, May 6th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have a 13 game slate here tonight. So let's take a look at the pitcher position. So one of the studs on the slate that I like is Max Scherzer pitching against the Philadelphia Phillies. Max Scherzer only giving up a .466 OPS versus righties. He's facing 5 righties here tonight. And on top of that, the Phillies have only hit 48 of his last 236 pitches. That's a .203 batting average and a huge sample size. So Max Scherzer is $10,800 FanDuel salary, $300 less on DraftKings. He's averaging 45 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 2.61. Record is 4-0, pitching an average of 95 pitches per game. So I like Max Scherzer here versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Now you could also go with Gerrit Cole. He's pitching pretty well, scored 46 and 57 fantasy points in his last 2 games. He's got a pretty good matchup here versus a low salary batting team, the Texas Rangers. He's giving up, he's a pretty even pitcher, giving up a .634 OPS versus righties, facing 6 righties. He's 10,000 FanDuel salary, 300 less on DraftKings. Now he's only averaging 30 fantasy points per game on the season, but he's been hot the past couple of games, has an ERA of 3, record of 2-0, pitching an average of 81 pitches per game. Oh, and the Rangers have only hit 15 of their last 72 pitches versus Gerrit Cole. That's a .208 batting average. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 7 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So a pretty low-scoring game. So I like Gerrit Cole here versus the Texas Rangers. Now, if you want to save some salary at the pitcher position, take a look at Kyle Gibson. He's got a pretty decent pitching advantage here over the New York Mets. Kyle Gibson only giving up a .586 OPS versus righties. He's facing 5 righties. He also only gives up a .528 OPS versus switch hitters, facing 2 switch hitters. So his worst pitch is versus lefties, where he gives up a .713 OPS. And he's only facing 2 lefties. So the splits are pretty good for Kyle Gibson. And the Mets have hit 33 of his last 133 pitches. That's a .248 batting average. And I like this pick because he's only 8,000 FanDuel salary, 500 more on DraftKings, averaging 31 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 2.93. Record is 2-1. Pitching an average of 88 pitches per game. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Kyle Gibson here versus the New York Mets. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. Here's a stud on the slate who I think is actually in a pretty good spot, and his salary is pretty reasonable. I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a 50% batting advantage over Shane Bieber. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. batting 41% better versus righty pitchers. Shane Bieber pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .715 OPS versus righties. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 0 for 2 versus Bieber, but he's only $3,900 FanDuel salary, 1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .290, so I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here versus Shane Bieber. Now I also like Ty France with a 29% batting advantage over Josh Fleming. Ty France is batting a .886 OPS versus lefties. Josh Fleming pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .863 OPS versus righties. Ty France is 2 for 6 versus Fleming. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary, $1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .330. So I like Ty France here versus Josh Fleming.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
I also like Ryan Mountcastle with a 34% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Carlos Hernandez. Ryan Mountcastle is batting 18% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .770 OPS versus righties. Carlos Hernandez pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 17% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .900 OPS versus righties. Now, Ryan Mountcastle is 0 for 3 versus Hernandez, but he's only $2,800 FanDuel salary and only $400 more on DraftKings, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, has a batting average of .250. So I like Ryan Mountcastle here versus Carlos Hernandez. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Wilmer Flores with a 43% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Jordan Hicks. Wilmer Flores batting 19% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .785 OPS versus righties. Jordan Hicks pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 24% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .740 OPS versus righties. Flores is 0 for 1 versus Hicks, but he's only $3,100 FanDuel salary, $800 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season, has a batting average of .279. So I like Wilmer Flores here versus Jordan Hicks. I also like Jeff McNeil with a 39% batting advantage over Kyle Gibson. Jeff McNeil is batting 21% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .819 OPS versus righties, and Kyle Gibson pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a .713 OPS versus lefties. Jeff McNeil is 3 for 10 versus Gibson, and one of those hits was a home run. He's $2,800 FanDuel salary, $1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .348. So I like Jeff McNeil here versus Kyle Gibson. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Alex Bregman with a 55% batting advantage over Bo Brisk. Alex Bregman batting a .801 OPS versus righties. Bo Brisk, he is pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 55% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .918 OPS versus righties. Alex Bregman is $3,600 FanDuel salary, $1,300 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .247. So I like Alex Bregman here versus Bo Brisk. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. One of my favorite plays on the slate, I like Xander Bogaerts versus a low-salary pitcher, Vince Vasquez. Xander Bogaerts batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .921 OPS versus righties. Vince Vasquez pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 37% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .997 OPS versus righties. And Xander Bogaerts is 3 for 9 versus Vasquez. He's $3,600 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .354. So I like Xander Bogaerts here versus Vince Vasquez.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the outfield position. Another Boston Red Sox I like, and actually I think it's a good opportunity to stack some righty batters here for the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox make a good stack here tonight. So I like JD Martinez with a 35% batting advantage over Vince Vasquez. And JD Martinez is batting a .879 OPS versus righties. We know Vince Vasquez giving up a .997 OPS versus righties. And JD Martinez is 2 for 7, and both of those hits are home runs. He has a 1.643 OPS versus Vasquez. He's $3,900 FanDuel salary, $1,000 more on DraftKings, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .306. So I like JD Martinez here versus Vince Vasquez. Now I also like Austin Hayes with a 26% batting advantage over the low salary pitcher Carlos Hernandez. Austin Hayes batting 10% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .793 OPS versus righties. Carlos Hernandez pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 17% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .900 OPS versus righties. Austin Hayes is 1 for 2 versus Hernandez. He's $2,900 FanDuel salary and only $200 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .287. So I like Austin Hayes here versus Carlos Hernandez. Now another value play that I like is Brandon Marsh with a 73% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Joan Adon. Brandon Marsh batting 52% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .840 OPS versus righties. Joan Adon pitching 21% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .923 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Adon yet, and Brandon Marsh is only $2,800 FanDuel salary. He's $1,400 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .265. So I like Brandon Marsh here versus Joan Adon. Now, another value play, take a look at Andrew Benintendi with a 36% batting advantage over the low-salary pitcher Jordan Lyles. Andrew Benintendi bats 17% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .833 OPS versus righties. Jordan Lyles, he is pitching 19% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .973 OPS versus lefties. Now, Andrew Benintendi is 1 for 3 versus Lyles, and he's only $2,600 FanDuel salary, $1,600 more on DraftKings, and he's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, has a batting average of .354, so this is probably one of my favorite plays on the slate, especially on FanDuel where he's only $2,600. So I like Andrew Benintendi here versus Jordan Lyles.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this MLB slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.